Did you know that during the Cold War, the United States proposed a weapon intended to make enemy soldiers homosexual? Today, you'll learn about the 8 most bizarre military weapons ever created. The last one is the most impressive, starting with the gay bomb. In the 1990s, during the Cold War, the US military was testing non-lethal ways to stop enemies, things like strange chemicals or sound weapons. But one proposal stood out. It was nicknamed the gay bomb. The idea? To release a chemical that would affect enemy soldiers' behavior, supposedly making them affectionate toward one another. Of course, the science behind it was nonsense. It never left the lab, but it's a perfect example of how bizarre Cold War experiments could get. When paranoia meets imagination, anything sounds possible. Now, let's rewind to World War II. Britain was under heavy attack by German submarines. They needed a new kind of ship, something huge, unsinkable, and cheap to build. So, an eccentric inventor named Jeffrey Pike said, why not make it out of ice? He called it Project Habakkuk. The plan was to build a massive aircraft carrier from pykrete, a mix of ice and wood pulp that's surprisingly tough and melts slowly. This floating iceberg would carry planes and defend the Atlantic. It even worked in small-scale tests, but it required constant refrigeration and an insane amount of resources. Eventually, the idea melted away, literally. Still, it almost changed naval history forever. The Bat Bomb. Next up, one of America's weirdest ideas from World War II. Instead of using big bombs, they thought, what if we used bats? The plan was to attach tiny timed firebombs to bats, then release thousands over Japanese cities at dawn. The bats would roost inside wooden houses, and when the bombs ignited, entire cities would burn from within. It actually worked during tests, until some of the bats escaped and accidentally burned down parts of the US base. After that, the military decided to stick with normal bombs. Sometimes, creativity just goes too far. The Great Panjandrum. Imagine this: 2 giant wooden wheels packed with explosives and powered by dozens of rockets. Sounds insane, right? Well, in World War II, the British actually built it. They called it the Great Panjandrum, and the plan was to launch it from a boat, let it roll across the beach, and blow a hole in enemy defenses. But there was one small problem. It never went straight. The rockets kept misfiring, sending this massive death wheel spinning out of control, crashing into everything, sometimes even back toward the people who launched it. In the end, it was a total disaster, but an unforgettable one. Proof that in war, even the most ridiculous ideas can make it off the drawing board. The Landkreuzer. Meanwhile, in Nazi Germany, Hitler had an obsession with superweapons. Among them was the Landkreuzer P-1000 Rata, the biggest tank ever designed. It would have been over 30 meters long, weighing 1,000 tons and armed with battleship cannons. Basically, a moving fortress. The problem? It was way too heavy. It would crush roads, sink in mud, and need hundreds of people just to operate. It never got built. But it shows how far Hitler's obsession with bigger is better really went. Project Pigeon. Before computers existed, the US was desperate for accurate missile guidance. Enter psychologist B.F. Skinner. He trained pigeons to peck at an image of a target, and their movements would steer a bomb mid-air toward that spot. Incredibly, it worked. The pigeons were shockingly precise, even better than early electronic systems. But the idea sounded too ridiculous to fund. Imagine explaining that to Congress. Yes, our national security relies on pigeons, the Soviet spy dolphins. And now, let's dive underwater. During the Cold War, both the US and the Soviet Union trained dolphins for military use. These animals are fast, smart, and have sonar-like senses. Soviet dolphins were trained to find underwater mines, detect submarines, and even attach tracking devices to enemy ships. The crazy part? It worked, and it was actually used. To this day, rumors say some of these dolphins are still used for special missions, because when technology fails, sometimes nature wins. Now, the craziest one, and it actually sounds straight out of a James Bond movie. But before we dive into this one, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. In the final years of World War II, German scientists imagined a giant mirror in space, big enough to focus sunlight into a deadly beam aimed at Earth. They believed it could set cities on fire or destroy fleets from orbit. What's even crazier is that there were actually theoretical plans and rough sketches for this sun gun. Scientists made calculations and concept drawings, trying to figure out how a giant orbital mirror could reflect sunlight towards specific targets. Of course, none of it was even close to possible with 1940s technology. Launching and controlling something that massive in space was pure science fiction. Still, it shows just how desperate Nazi scientists became near the end of the war. This is the history of war. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe for more videos like this.